There was a time when the world feared only one team. Brazil. 5 World Cups. Generations of legends. Pelé, Romario, Ronaldo, Ronaldinho, Kaká. For decades, Brazil wasn't just another national team. It was football itself. Every 4 years, millions expected one thing: Brazil would be there. Playing beautiful football, creating unforgettable moments, and lifting trophies. But then, everything changed. Since winning the World Cup in 2002, the greatest football nation on earth has failed, again, and again, and again. Some defeats were heartbreaking. Some were shocking. And one changed Brazilian football forever. A defeat so humiliating, that it became one of the darkest nights in sports history. Today, we're going back through every World Cup elimination that slowly transformed Brazil, from the kings of football, into a nation desperately searching for another golden generation. This is the story of Brazil's fall in the World Cup. By 2010, Brazil had spent 8 years waiting for another World Cup. The magical squad that conquered Japan in 2002 was gone. In its place stood a very different team. Head coach Dunga had abandoned the traditional Brazilian philosophy. Instead of flair, he wanted discipline, organization, defensive solidity, and efficiency. Many fans criticized his approach. There was no Ronaldinho, no Adriano, no young Neymar. Instead, Brazil relied on experienced players like Julio Cesar, Lucio, Maicon, Gilberto Silva, Kaká, and Robinho. It wasn't the most entertaining Brazilian team, but it was one of the most organized. As the tournament began in South Africa, everything seemed under control. Brazil comfortably advanced through the group stage. They defeated North Korea, beat Ivory Coast convincingly, and secured first place. Then, they eliminated Chile in the round of 16 with a dominant 3-0 victory. Confidence was growing. Many believed this disciplined Brazilian side had exactly what it needed to become world champions. But waiting in the quarterfinals was one of the strongest teams in Europe. The Netherlands. Everything started perfectly. Only 10 minutes into the match, Felipe Melo played a brilliant through ball. Robinho stayed calm and finished beautifully. Brazil led 1-0. The team looked comfortable, confident, in complete control. The Dutch struggled to create chances. Brazil seemed closer to scoring a second goal, then conceding the equalizer. But football can change in an instant. Early in the second half, disaster struck. A harmless cross floated into Brazil's penalty area. Goalkeeper Julio Cesar rushed out. Defender Felipe Melo tried to clear it. Instead, the two collided. The ball bounced into Brazil's own net. An own goal. One mistake. Everything changed. The confidence disappeared. The Dutch sensed weakness. Brazil began making uncharacteristic mistakes. Then came the decisive moment. A corner kick. Wesley Sneijder rose above Brazil's defense. Another goal. 2-1. Brazil had completely collapsed. Frustration took over. Felipe Melo, already responsible for the own goal, lost his composure. He stepped on Arjen Robben and received a straight red card. With 10 men, Brazil had no answer. When the final whistle blew, their World Cup dream was over. The defeat wasn't as shocking as what would happen 4 years later. But looking back, this was the first crack. The first sign that Brazil was no longer invincible. The aura that had terrified opponents for generations was beginning to disappear. Unfortunately, the worst was still to come. Because the next World Cup would be played in Brazil. And it would become the darkest chapter in the history of Brazilian football. For the first time in 64 years, the World Cup had returned to Brazil. This wasn't just another tournament. It was supposed to be redemption. A chance to erase years of disappointment. Millions believed destiny had brought football home. So Brazil could become champions once again. Everywhere you looked, there were yellow shirts. Flags covered entire neighborhoods. Children dreamed of seeing Neymar lift the trophy. The pressure wasn't just enormous. It was unimaginable. Brazil wasn't expected to compete. Brazil was expected to win. Anything less would be considered failure. The tournament started well. Brazil defeated Croatia in the opening match. They survived a tense draw against Mexico. Then beat Cameroon to finish first in the group. But the road became increasingly difficult. In the round of 16, Chile pushed Brazil to the absolute limit. After 120 exhausting minutes, the match went to penalties. Julio Cesar became the hero. Brazil escaped. Barely. Then came Colombia. One of the most exciting teams in the tournament. Brazil won. But the victory came at a terrible cost. Late in the match, Juan Camilo Zuniga accidentally drove his knee into Neymar's back. The stadium fell silent. Neymar collapsed. He had fractured a vertebra. His World Cup was over. As if that wasn't enough, Captain Thiago Silva received a yellow card. Suspended. He would also miss the semi-final. Brazil had lost its captain, its leader, its best player, just days before facing Germany. Nobody expected what happened next. Not the fans. Not the players. Not even Germany. The match began, and within 11 minutes, Thomas Muller scored. 1-0. Brazil looked nervous. But there was still plenty of time. Then, everything fell apart. In the 23rd minute, Miroslav Klose scored. 2-0. 1 minute later, Toni Kroos. 3-0. Another minute passed. Kroos again. 4-0. Before Brazil could even process what was happening, Sami Khedira made it 5. 5 goals. In less than 30 minutes. The Mineiro Stadium had gone silent. Millions watching around the world couldn't believe what they were seeing. Some fans cried. Others simply stared in disbelief. Parents hugged their children. The impossible was happening. Germany didn't stop. They continued attacking. Brazil had completely collapsed. Every German counterattack looked dangerous. The confidence, the organization, the identity, everything disappeared. And yet, Germany showed respect. Their players celebrated, but never mocked Brazil. They understood, they weren't just winning a football match. They were witnessing history. In the second half, André Schürrle scored twice more. 7-1. Oscar scored a late consolation goal. But nobody celebrated. The scoreboard read, Germany 7. Brazil 1. The heaviest defeat in Brazil's football history, one of the greatest shocks in World Cup history. And a result that would forever be remembered simply as, the 7-1. After the humiliation of 2014, Brazil knew one thing. They could never allow history to repeat itself. The Brazilian Football Confederation turned to a coach who had transformed the national team. Tight. Calm. Tactical. Respected. Under his leadership, Brazil looked like Brazil again. The team played with confidence. They defended as a unit. Controlled possession. And attacked with creativity. Neymar had recovered from injury. Philippe Coutinho was enjoying the best football of his career. Marcelo was considered one of the world's greatest left-backs. Casemiro dominated the midfield. Alisson had become one of the best goalkeepers on the planet. For many analysts, Brazil entered the 2018 World Cup as one of the strongest favorites. Maybe, this was finally the year. The tournament wasn't perfect. A frustrating draw against Switzerland raised early concerns. But Brazil quickly found its rhythm. Victories over Costa Rica and Serbia secured first place in the group. Then came Mexico. A confident performance. Neymar scored. Roberto Firmino sealed the win. Brazil advanced to the quarterfinals. Waiting there was perhaps the most talented Belgian team ever assembled. Kevin De Bruyne, Eden Hazard, Romelu Lukaku, Thibaut Courtois. A generation many believed was capable of becoming world champions. The stage was set. Two giants. Only one could move on. Belgium struck first. A corner kick. Chaos inside the penalty area. Fernandinho accidentally turned the ball into his own net. Brazil was behind. Again. Unlike 2014. The team didn't collapse. They continued attacking. Searching for an equalizer. But Belgium had prepared the perfect counterattack. Romelu Lukaku burst through midfield, dragging defenders with him. At exactly the right moment, he released Kevin De Bruyne. One powerful strike. 2-0. Brazil suddenly faced a mountain to climb. The second half became a siege. Brazil attacked relentlessly. Wave after wave. Marcelo crossed. Coutinho created chances. Neymar tested Courtois again, and again. But Belgium's goalkeeper produced one of the greatest performances of the tournament. Save after save. Every Brazilian opportunity seemed destined to end in his gloves. Finally, Renato Augusto headed home. 2-1. Hope returned. For the remaining minutes, Brazil threw everything forward. But time was running out. Then came one final chance. Deep into stoppage time, Neymar curled a beautiful shot toward the top corner. The stadium held its breath. Courtois flew across the goal, and produced one last incredible save. Seconds later, the referee blew the final whistle. Brazil was out. Again. Unlike 2014, there was no humiliation, no collapse, no disaster. Brazil had played well, but in football, sometimes playing well isn't enough. The dream had ended once again. Still, there was optimism. The squad remained young. Neymar would have another chance. Vinicius Jr. was emerging. Rodrigo was coming through. A new generation was growing. The next World Cup would surely be different. Or so everyone believed. By the time the 2022 World Cup arrived, Brazil believed it had assembled its most complete squad in 2 decades. Experience, youth, speed, creativity, depth, every position was filled with world-class talent. Neymar had become the leader of the team. Alongside him, a new generation was ready to shine. Vinicius Jr., Rodrigo, Richarlison, Casemiro, Marquinhos, Alisson. Many experts agreed. Brazil wasn't just one of the favorites. They were the favorites. For the first time since 2002, the sixth star felt closer than ever. Brazil's campaign started brilliantly. A comfortable victory over Serbia, followed by another win against Switzerland. Even after rotating the squad against Cameroon, confidence never disappeared. Then came South Korea. And Brazil reminded the world exactly why they were feared. 4 goals, in the first half. Beautiful passing. Creative movement. Joy. The famous Brazilian dance celebrations returned. Everything pointed toward one destination, the World Cup final. But standing in the quarterfinals, was Croatia. A nation with a population smaller than many major cities, yet one with an incredible reputation. Disciplined. Resilient. Masters of surviving knockout football.